Alright folks, today I'm going to review an umbrella. No, I have not quite lost my mind yet, although YouTube is working on it. This makes sense, because you can hit some fools with it. Yeah, that makes it sound so much better, doesn't it? This is the security umbrella that was sent to me for review, and it looks like a standard umbrella, or rather, it doesn't look like much. Open it, because then you can't see anything anymore. Yeah. So why on earth would I review an umbrella? Because it's also a self-defense tool. So the idea is, this is for average people, not martial arts experts and, big and strong and tough people. Just for the average person, citizen on the street who, is not allowed in many places to carry a weapon for self-defense. In some US states it's pretty limited what you can carry. In Canada it's quite limited, in Europe and Asia, just about anywhere really. And it's an umbrella. Nobody can say anything. You may get some odd looks if you carry it around in the middle of summer on a hot day. But even then, it depends on where exactly. Some places are known for sudden, unexpected showers. And either way, nobody can say anything. If you just carry an umbrella around, it's not a weapon, and, all that. And regular umbrellas can't be used for self-defense. They're just too flimsy. If you struck somebody with it, it would bend immediately. Some people have done that in videos, and they're just not durable enough. This, on the other hand, is. So the idea with this umbrella is that it's supposed to make people more confident and be less of a victim. Because that is one of the main things that criminals and other scum are looking for. They don't want a fight, for the most part. They are looking for a victim to rob or, pick on or whatever, assault, and they don't want resistance. So if somebody has one of these, and even if they just take a stance with the umbrella in some kind of way and show them that, hey, I will fight back, then that's going to be a deterrent in a lot of cases. If that doesn't work, you still can use this to defend yourself. The tip is stainless steel, the knob is wood, and the shaft and other parts are fiberglass. This is also available in several different sizes, including the extra large knob. Alright, so how well does this work? At first I wanted to do a demonstration with my HEMA instructor Eric, but then I considered, since this is designed with regular people in mind, with little or no martial arts experience, it's better to not get too technical about it. So I met up with my friend Emily to experiment with the umbrella and see what we can come up with. And there are many possible ways in which you could use this as a lever to wrench out of somebody's grip, or to control their arm, to use a joint lock, or just simply put it in their face essentially and try to push them away, use the point to stab them with, threaten their face, etc. Using it with two hands and grappling and to wrench and strike and hook is pretty straightforward and mostly intuitive. If the situation was more serious and you were faced with a determined, aggressive and dangerous attacker, you could also use this more brutally by thrusting either the point or the knob of the umbrella into the throat. Always a vulnerable target, but its intended use is mainly defensive, to block punches, kicks, and strikes with various objects. And you can do that pretty well. We tried it with a primitive wooden club. You're doing as hard as you can. You can stop a swing with the umbrella. In fact, we even ramped it up and tried it with a sword. Still works. So if you absolutely had to, you could potentially block a strike with a weapon as well. Now, I have to point out that this, of course, is dependent on strength. If the attacker is vastly stronger, then you're in trouble no matter what. And I also need to address the issue of overconfidence. There are certain concerns with something like this. For one, if you carry a security umbrella or any kind of self-defense tool, really, the danger is that you become too confident and think, oh yeah, I can handle this, I'll be fine, and maybe underestimate an attacker. And strength and aggression are very major factors in a self-defense situation. Now, you can compensate for that to an extent. For example, if you use two hands on the umbrella and use it for leverage against one arm of the opponent, you can compensate for a difference in strength to an extent. There's of course a limit, and also what you have to take into consideration is that the first and most important step in a self-defense situation is de-escalation and avoidance. You know, the way to win a fight is to prevent it from happening or to be elsewhere. And of course, using a weapon or any kind of other object as an improvised weapon is escalation. So that could lead to the attacker becoming more aggressive or pulling a weapon of their own. However, if you really had to, if you were in a desperate situation, this is all you had, and the attacker was actively trying to seriously injure you or worse, what could you do? Could you use this? Now, this wouldn't be my channel if I didn't abuse the crap out of it, right? So I took it and I struck one of the zombie heads by Zombie Go Boom. When doing that, I encountered an unexpected issue when striking with the tip, holding it at the handle. If you strike hard enough with enough velocity, this may actually open up, and the umbrella might actually, yeah, you see, even when I do it like this, it will open up. So as soon as this button here comes undone and you swing it, there's a high chance that this will open up. What this does is, as it opens up, of course you've got a lot of air resistance suddenly, and it would also cushion the blow. Hitting with this end avoids that problem. Also, you've got the striking surface here, and this is also where you have more mass, of course, so this end will hit harder anyway. Now, because it is a fiberglass core, this flexes to an extent, takes some of the force away compared to a completely rigid object. So it limits how hard you can strike with it.
Alright, so here's the spot where I hit it. So if you see that, let's see if we can find anything underneath here. Can't see anything substantial here.
So I didn't expect to be able to crack the zombie head, considering how sturdy those are and how much force it takes to crack it even with a blunt steel weapon. Wasn't really going to happen. I mean, if you are exceptionally strong and strike it as hard as you can, maybe you could achieve a minor crack. But of course you don't need to crack a skull for an effective strike to the head that could cause concussion, or otherwise just disable the attacker for long enough that you can get away. Like the object is not to hit them as hard as you can for as long as you can until they don't move anymore. It would be more a matter of, okay, strike them to hopefully deter them. If that doesn't work, then strike them until they stop threatening you and you can get away, you can run away, etc. And for that, this works pretty well. At first I was a little skeptical because it flexes a little bit and it's not exceptionally heavy. I mean, it is a lot heavier than a regular umbrella, but it's still pretty light overall. So I asked Emily to hit me with it just so I can see what it's like. And also I was wondering how easy it would be to grab it. Like, if you strike the attacker, can they just grab the umbrella and wrench it out of your hands? But I found that only works with a very light swing. When she swung with moderate power, then it would just bounce off my arm and I couldn't get it. Generally with strikes to the arm, I found that they hurt but wouldn't really stop me. At least when striking with this side, which as said, I wouldn't really recommend. I would definitely suggest striking with the other end. Now this is quite a bit more painful. So I noticed that even a light hit with the knob on bone, like on the shoulder blade for example, or on the ribs, hurts quite a bit. So if somebody struck as hard as they could on a bony area of the body, that would definitely be very, very painful. I'm not sure if it could crack a rib, possibly. Now, I would generally advise against relying on pain compliance because everybody has different pain sensitivity and you cannot rely on that to stop an attacker. But that being said, I would say that unless you're dealing with somebody who is really determined and has a particularly low pain threshold or is high on drugs or whatever, then yeah, this will probably convince them to stop because it can be pretty painful. So some people have called this an unbreakable umbrella. It's not a term I would use, but it depends on how you look at it. You can definitely break it as in render it inoperable as an umbrella, for that particular function. You can break the internals, you can tear the fabric, obviously, but the core itself, that you probably won't break. That will be pretty difficult. So I tried flexing it a lot by doing a pull-up on it, and it held up to that just fine. It was still perfectly straight afterwards, and when striking the zombie head pretty hard, even though some of the internal parts broke, the core was still fine. So you would be hard-pressed to break the shaft itself. Hopefully that's not needed anyway. In most situations you would probably just have to threaten them with the point, shove it in their face or threaten the throat, and basically just stop them from coming at you by putting this in between and showing them, hey, I mean business, I will fight back, you want to pick an easier target. So what do I think about it overall? I like the concept of having a tool you can use for self-defense that is also an everyday item that nobody can complain about, no matter where you are, no matter what the laws are. You can always carry an umbrella, and it is a good umbrella, by the way. Just as such, it is well made. It's much sturdier, obviously, than any other umbrella you can find, and it works for its intended purpose. If you cannot carry a handgun or some other kind of weapon, then this, in my opinion, is a good choice. It's most definitely better than nothing. It's got some good potential. I would personally prefer if it was made a little heavier, so you could hit harder with it and make the internal umbrella components even more durable, which of course would rack up the price. But yeah, in general, I would definitely recommend checking this out if you're looking for something that you can carry just about anywhere. If you keep the limitations in mind and don't get too overconfident, then I think this would serve you quite well. So if you're interested in it, I'll leave a link in the video description down below where you can order it. And I hope you enjoyed the review. Thanks for watching, and have a good one, folks. Stay dry. I'm gonna grab it. Maybe not to start with the thing in my balls, because that's the next step.